Good day, everyone. I am so delighted to be here for another edition of Team Talk Live. I'm Terilee Harrison with Team Referral Network Virtual Chapters, and today we're going to talk about a subject that is near and dear to my heart, and that is your story. We all have a story. All of our stories matter. All of them are important. And today we're going to talk with someone who is passionate about your story and helping you get it out to the world. And so I would love to introduce you to Melanie Gow, the legend maker. So Melanie, welcome.
Thank you, Terilee. It's such a pleasure to be here, especially talking about our favorite subject.
Oh my gosh, I'm so delighted. And I have a story for all those watching. So several weeks ago, Melanie gave her first presentation at our virtual team meeting. She's in a chapter that's based out of the UK, or friendly for UK time. And she was just so stunning. And guess who had to follow her the next week? I was like, oh, it was all fine, but everyone teased me about having to follow her. So Melanie is just stunning, and I know that you're going to love meeting Melanie. So let me go ahead and I'll introduce you to her now. So Melanie, in some worlds, is known as a transformational speaker, a story strategist, and a performance coach. In her world, she believes that she makes legends. Melanie believes your story reveals your purpose, business, or mission, and helps people get over the too many stories and is my story really worth telling, mind goblins, to discover the power in their story, to reveal oh my goodness, so sorry, Melanie, to discover the power in their story, to reveal why they are here, feel secure with the challenges of stepping into the spotlight with their boldest message, connect deeply, and feel unstoppable. So there is so much power, Melanie, in what you do. And I'm just curious, before we dive into this, how did you get started in being the legend maker? There must be a story there.
Well, I mean, it shouldn't be about me. It should always be about someone else. But I do understand people do want to know. So I started out, I hustled my way into the grown-up world in the real world of movies, which means that I know the hero's journey like the back of my hand. But as my life progressed and I ended up with children and a sick child and a divorce and my father died and my second book lost its deal, I realized that sometimes when Gandalf comes knocking on the door asking if you'd like to answer the call, you have to say to him, can you come back at 4:00? I've got to pick the kids up. Or you're picking up the pieces from, somebody else who answered the call. So what I ended up learning, because I became a published author, and then I walked my sons across a country, 8 kilometers, 33 days, but they were only 16 and 12 at the time. And that became a national inspirational speaking tour, that crowdfunded book, and I was invited to speak on the TED Circle. But the thing about the walk that we did is that there are 18,000 people who do that walk every single day. So when I was touring, one of the questions really was, how is it that a single mum has got singled out to tell her story on the stage? Yes. And my answer was, that's the power of story. And that's actually when I found my purpose. When I realized that I could literally help people to tell their story, and that they would be able to do as powerful things as I had, give TED Talks, keynote speaking, be able to, write a book, be able to speak on social media with ease, as easily as speaking in a coffee queue. And that's basically my story.
That is an amazing story. And there are so many people that keep their story inside of them, right? So many people just go through their life and they never really let it out. And how much more extraordinary life can be when we're willing to be that brave and that bold. So that's why I'm delighted to chat with you. And I think sometimes, do you think, Melanie, that sometimes people in business think like their story isn't any big deal, or their story doesn't matter?
Yes. I mean, that's the bit that hurts the most is people, a lot of people have too many stories in their head, and they are, I don't know which one to use. That affects a lot of women particularly, because we go through so many stages in life where we collapse our identity and have to rebuild it, mother, daughter, carer, a wife, divorced, those sort of things, a big identity restructures. And so identity stories are kept in the highest place in our hierarchy. So we then have a lot of stories. I don't know which one. The other one, of course, is I don't know if my story is really worth telling. And that really hurts, because all our stories really matter. The woman who helped me to understand this about what I could do was a woman in a wheelchair outside a venue down at the end of a very, very little country road in the middle of nowhere in the UK on that tour. It was an afternoon, and it was in the village hall. There were about 50 people. It was completely full. It was that small a venue. The atmosphere was great. And as I left, she asked if she could talk to me. So we walked when she came to the car park with me, and she was talking about her love of poetry and how she loved to wheel herself out into the country and speak it out loud, and that she built her own kitchen from her wheelchair. And then she turned to me and she said to me, "I want what you have." And I honestly had no idea what she meant, just because I knew that I'd been speaking about doing this walk, and that wasn't what she wanted. So I asked her more questions, and we stood for a long time talking, until finally I realized all she wanted to do was to matter. I was a stranger from outside of her village who'd arrived, and the whole village had turned out to see me speak, and nobody really knew she existed. Nobody knew she wrote poetry in her own village. And she just wondered how on earth that she had become so invisible. And that's when I realized that that's what we all want. We all want to matter. And all of our stories, when we tell them in a way that is for other people, to help them to heal, help them to lead, help them to, tell their business, why they're in business better. Yes. That is when we matter. And so, of course, all our stories matter, because we're all doing something in this world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So amazing. So yes. So I think sometimes people think, oh, I'm just going to, do my business, and I'm not going to engage. And so that's why I'm so delighted. I'm so delighted to have you here today, to be able to chat a little bit more about just even maybe thinking about telling their story. Maybe some have been telling it for quite a while. Maybe some of them haven't brought it out yet. So you started to touch on this. So if we can, let's dive a little bit more into how your story has the power to heal, inspire, or lead. So speak to the people who aren't feeling this right now, Melanie. What would you say to them?
Well, all our stories have always been a part of who we are and have shaped our culture. The best evidence of archaeology and anthropology suggests that we co-evolve with our story. Now, of course, stories being part of our history back in the day when we were in our primitive caves around our campfires. The person who came in from the forest and talked about how they'd eaten a berry and it made them sick was revered in the settlement, because it would save the settlement either sickness or death. So the concept of a story that can save a settlement is actually embedded in our experience right back from our primitive times. And of course, we've written our stories of our cultures on the walls of pyramids, the Bayeux Tapestry, and obviously now we do them in our current theatre, which is cinema, or actual theatre, of course. But the thing about a story, our story that heals, is when we've been through some sort of an experience and triumphed on the other side. Often we think that experience is something we need to be ashamed of, or we try and hide, or we have grief over it. And so we don't tell it or express it fully. But that journey from pain and shame and grief, and maybe even fear, to the triumph is literally the legend journey. That I call that instead of the hero's journey, because that story will help somebody else. It's our story, but it's somebody else's survival guide. And knowing how somebody got through grief, or got through illness, or overcame some tragedy, literally has the power to heal another person when we read a book that articulates how we're thinking inside our head, we heal. When we see it in a human being, either in front of us in the room or online, it literally has the power to reconfigure the neurons in our brain and give us healing. The inspiring bit is, of course, so many people have inspiring stories. Mine might fall into that. But the leading story is when a leadership story, that's when somebody can tell a story that makes you believe in the possibility of the future, something that doesn't exist yet, but the happy ever after, the possibility. And the best way we can tell them is in story, because our brain is patterned to follow along with story, but because we can see and feel another human being going through the process, and therefore we believe it. And it's the belief that's very important.
So true. So true. You know, was told many years ago that every time you tell your story, it is healing to you and healing to others. And I've gone through a period where I wasn't telling my story as often as I was in the past. And it just reminded me in several podcasts that I've been doing lately, we really dug into my story, and we weren't just talking about virtual networking tips and strategies, right? We really dug into the nitty gritty. And I was reminded of that. And I was like, yes, it is, even all after all this time, it's still healing to me also, right? It's just there's such a gift in being able to share it and to be able to let it be out open into the world. So I love what you're saying. So
it does remind me, Terilee, that of the healing of that. It does heal yourself as well. I was just thinking as you were saying that, I now have this very little encapsulated intro that I often use about myself, that my father died and my marriage broke up and I lost my publishing deal and my life felt like it was torched and I needed to walk out of there with a different story. So that's when I did walk out of there with my sons across the country. Now, that small paragraph about the disaster in my life used to be the part that I never spoke about. It's so true. That was the thing I was trying to maybe move past. That was the thing I was trying to put in the past. But by understanding that other people needed to know my motivation to go on the walk, I began to tell that part. And of course, I now not only can talk about it, I actually thank that part of my life for what it's given me since. So you're so right. Our stories, when we talk about them, when we can talk about them in a way that is designed to be helpful or to be heard and spoken, actually heals us. You're so right.
And do you know what I find so empowering? I'll be going through LinkedIn, Melanie, and someone that I admire greatly talks about going from homeless veteran to influencer, or like when we're just open, so many of us have that, where you've been from and where you've come from, where you are now, and just being willing to say this is what it is. It is all these things. It's healing, it is inspiring, and it's leading. And I just want to encourage people, as I know you do, if you're to move through that, to be able to be real about who you are. So
yes, and the more of us who show up real, the more authenticity there is in the world, the more truth there is in the world, and the more the rest of us start to feel okay, because we can see that those things we've been ashamed of or afraid of are shared. They're universal experiences. We just need some people to speak out bravely. That's and the more of us that do it, the more of us will see how it's possible for us.
Oh yes, I'm so excited. So I'm very excited about point 2, and that is, and I already showed it just a second ago, but that is by accident. Where is it?
A little preview.
Oh, okay, there it is. There's a world of difference between inspiration, influence, and influence. Can you share about this? This sounds so intriguing to me, and I want to know more.
I can, and it won't even take that long. Okay. So I did say that our stories can heal, inspire, and lead. And it's true that we love an inspiring story. And you were just talking about the veteran as an example. But one of the things that is very intriguing about just inspiring people, that's what I did almost for 5 years. I've talked about walking my sons across the country. And what I found was that when I was standing in rooms, people were went on that journey with me and really believed in hope and possibility and loved the experience. And then they would come up to me and they'd say, what can I do, like my lady in her wheelchair? And what I realized is that I was what I call in a gilded cage of inspiration. That is, that people didn't feel that they could, in that room, take an action in their lives, go away from that room to their homes, and then, start there in improving or changing their lives or whatever. And that's what I realized, that inspiration is something that people can take and do exactly what they want with, including nothing. And if you think about it, when we're scrolling through Facebook and we get a lovely story and we're like, oh, that is so inspiring, and then we just move on. That's where I felt that there was a misunderstanding, that we all want to inspire, but actually what we want as change makers, as inspirational people, as transformational people, or even ambitious entrepreneurs who want to move people from one place to another, is that we want to actually influence people into action. And there is literally a way that you can do that you structure the way you speak, that takes people from simply being inspired to moving into action. And that's what I ended up discovering over 5 years of touring the country of the UK with this talk, was how to structure a speech, particularly a speech, a TED talk, a keynote, a closer, any of those where you actually want people to change. I learned how to structure a talk that it does that. And that's been a life changer in my ability to help other people to do big work. And so that's the difference between inspiration and influence.
Okay, that is very important. That is very important. There are a lot of people that like say, I want to be a speaker, right? Or I want to write a book. I'm gonna tell my story, right? You know these people, the people you work with probably, but they want to start off and they want to tell their story. They're ready to tell their story. They might write their book, but the question, yes, is what else are you going to do, right, to really make an impact with these people's lives? So I see exactly what you're saying. So to influence them is to actually give them an opportunity to engage with you, to work with you, to be able to guide them in the action that they need to take, right? And this is all very important. And for those in business, this is one thing too, is I think initially people tell me, am I right? They start off and they're like, I want to speak and I want to tell my story, and like, I'm going to sell books. And do you have to sell a lot of books to make a house payment, huh, Melanie?
Well, yeah, that I'm seeing for a Christmas card, so
Yes. And so having a program to offer someone is huge, right? To be able to make a career out of this, and so to make the income and the impact, it takes a combination. And I think that's where opportunities like that, what you are offering as the Legend Maker, come in. Am I right?
I believe you might well be
right. Yes, I'm thinking so.
The thing about books is that they are incredibly, they're very important. They're like a guide in someone's hand. So they have reach. They can go to places where you can't travel, or maybe you're not invited to speak yet. So the book can reach and give resonance. And a book is a way to get media. So you have a book published, and that makes it very easy for you to be invited as a guest to speak on podcasts or in the media. So they're kind of a lead magnet, they're reach, and then they're a media amplifier. But if there's no way for the listener or your audience to continue the journey with you, you're almost just, it's a drive-by kind of experience. When you come to the end of a book and you close it, and there's that sort of grief, really, that's over. Mm-hmm. That's the feeling that you're going to be leaving everyone with if you just give them a book or let them have a book. Now, it might change their lives, And that's wonderful. Lots of people say, but if my book just changes one person's life, I'm like, no, that I'm afraid is not enough. You want that book to change as many people's lives. You want it to scale to as many people as hear your story. And the way to do that is for it to influence them into action, and for them to come to you because you've got the experience that will help that exact person to actually change. And we all know that change is inevitable, except from vending machines, but we really don't like doing it. And so having somebody on alongside us who really knows how to get you to change, understands where you are, and can get you to the other side of it is vital. And this is why, as business people, it's our duty. It would be rude of us not to have some way to follow up, a second date for the person to engage with us again. So that's, yes. And of course, speaking, which is actually my preferred form of storytelling, is in the room. It's immediate. It's the know, like, and trust. People can really feel your essence. They can hear you. They can smell you, but kinetically have an experience of you. And that's very powerful. So you want to have a way in which those people can continue a relationship, because that's what we're all in, relationships, in business, in our lives, in our families. We're in relationships all over the world. And that's one thing our story can do: build that empathy bridge, engage deeply, and then build relationships. And because it's a person that we're involved with. So that's where your story is the most powerful, is if you're actually using it, helping other people to transform.
Love it. Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let's talk about this, because this is, I think sometimes people question, like, is this really what I want? So let's talk a little bit more about this. Seeking the spotlight isn't the same as doing something the spotlight seeks. Can you tell us more about this?
Well, I have to kind of give this some context in that the spotlight is possibly one of the most powerful energies on this planet. Mm-hmm. It's almost that we somehow manipulated the sun to shine a spotlight. But so the spotlight is sort of a global consensus that this one person is worth listening to, looking at, and paying attention to. And sure, there are lots of spotlights around the world going on all of the time, but it's that powerful. And that energy coming down onto a person and allows them to reach out into an audience. And then this huge energy loop starts where the impact is had. So there's lots of us seek the spotlight because we know how powerful it is. So we're like, oh, look, I'm going to need to, I want the spotlight, and because that's what's going to make the difference. But that seeking the spotlight is interesting. Once you actually get into the spotlight, you almost collapse because you haven't been thought about what you're going to say or what you are to deserve it and all those sort of things. But if you do something that is worth the spotlight, that the spotlight wants to find in the world, yes, the spotlight will come to you. And I did that inadvertently by walking my sons across Spain for 800 kilometers when they were so young, and knowing how to tell the story. But you do it by doing really great work. When I went across Spain, I was there fully. I took it as a space to give my boys the space to decide what kind of men they wanted to be. I was in it every day. It changed me. I allowed that walk to completely transform me. And so I know that that's why the energy came and shone on me. I was privileged, really, to be the one who carried the inspiration back out into the world and influence people with the story. But when we do really great work, and we do that every day, and everything we do is how we do anything is how we do everything. If we do that, we become worth the spotlight. And then by being prepared with our story, how to speak, how to help people in the audience to transform, that's when the spotlight will actually do its great power for us. So that's a kind of sincere way of me saying we need to respect the power of the story and do something that's really worth being in there. And that is by doing good work at every moment that you can.
I love that. I love that. How we do some things is how we do everything. That's so powerful. So powerful. How do you think that our time, you don't know I'm going to ask this, but just this, we're in this time, in this moment now with the pandemic, and most of us have never seen this in our lifetime, nor do we ever hope to have it again in our lifetime, right? But we know it's happened in the past, but where do you think our story can come into play during these times? How do you think that we can use it for greater impact and greater good in the world?
I'm so glad you asked that. It's something that I've been sitting with because I'm in the same pandemic as everyone else. And what I've actually learned is that it's at times like this that we turn to each other. It might be that we are just reassessing what's important in our lives, but we are reassessing what's important in our lives. And what we're finding is important is other people, who we're connected to, who we actually matters in our lives, who we want to spend. If we're locked down, who is it that we want to be locked down with, online or in our real world? And that is other people who we resonate with, who we believe in, whose values we share. And that is only able to be told through our story. Our story really is the know, like, and trust in the room. It is how we display our emotion, our values and beliefs. It is how we connect, because what happens to us is ours. It's unique. But how we feel about it is universal. And story is how we put feeling into all of our communications. So actually at this point, not only are we more important to those that we care about, but it's our stories that will not only connect us and build relationships, but will help us through this. And we're also living in a polarized community of different sides. There's no consensus. It's stories and shared stories that build consensus. I used to run an Airbnb and I had over 1,000 people through my home. And other people used to say to me, gosh, how can you have so many strangers in your house? And my genuine answer to that is, once you know someone's story, they're not a stranger. So it's easy. And that was my lesson from hosting over 1,000 people from all around the world, from completely different backgrounds and cultures and experiences in my home at my kitchen counter. That's literally how we build connection in this world, is through our story. So right now, it's even more important to be able to tell it, because that's how we'll build our connections and relationships that will sustain us moving forward.
Thank you so much. Yes, no, thank you so much, Melanie, for sharing that. And I'm so delighted, everyone, that Melanie is in my life now. She's in our network here at Team Referral Network Virtual Chapters. And I hope that our passion about story has got you excited about your story. So I want to invite you all. Some of you may be hosting online events. And I know that Melanie would be a fantastic speaker for your organization. This is how you can reach out to Melanie. I know she would invite that. And also as the legend maker, if you're someone and you're ready to tell your story, maybe she's inspired or influenced you here today. I'm sure she would love to hear from you. Love to hear from you and see what she can do to help you bring your story out into the spotlight. So Melanie, what an honor to have some time with you. I'm always delighted to have any time with you that I can get on screen. And one day I'm going to see you in person, and we're gonna celebrate that moment. But until then, thank you for all the work you do in the world. I know that it does a world of good. So thanks, Melanie, for being here.
Thank you, Terilee. It's such an honor. Genuinely, I'm so glad the day I met you. It's been an absolute ride ever since, and I've made some really good connections in V Team. It's been incredible. They've become a part of my life instantly, and you told me that they would.
Yes, I'm so grateful.
You. Yes,
I'm so grateful.
This has been great.
All right. Listen, everyone, have a fantastic day. Go honor your story and share it with someone. Melanie and I will see you soon. Until next time.